Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Keepers by the Dozen Fantasy Football Podcast. We finally made it. This is the last team breakdown. We are breaking down none other than our champion, Air Frank. Finished 13-1 and dominated the league, and it didn't happen by accident. His draft picks not only hit, but were elite options, and many of them finished either 1 or close to 1 at their position. So you had CeeDee Lamb that finished as the wide receiver 1. You had Tyreek Hill that was finished as the wide receiver 2. Dak finished as the QB 3. You had ETN that finished as the RB 3. You had Keenan Allen, who finished as a top 10 wide receiver and was dominating before he went down to industry in his own right. His team was stacked. They all hit. They all performed well. Lucky for us, this isn't a dynasty, so some of those players are going to have to go back to the pool. Our champion here has some decisions to make. It's not as clear cut as you might think, because there are so many great options on his team. It's kind of a gift and a curse here. So let's go through some of the options, or talk about some of his elite weapons that he might be saying goodbye to or franchising and keeping. So let's start at the top. Let's start with CeeDee Lamb. Like I said, finished as the wide receiver 1. He had 181 targets, 12 tutties, and he saw a career high in basically every passing category. Career high in targets, career high in receptions, career high in receiving yards, career high in touchdowns, career high in success rate, career high in yards per target, career high in catch percentage. Basically any stat or metric that you can possibly think of, CeeDee Lamb had a career high. He's 25, entering into the prime of his career. The Cowboys as a team were first in points per game, which helped him, and third in passing yards. So that Cowboys offense went from being a more balanced offense in prior years with a solid O-line and running game, to Pollard obviously not being the guy and not being able to cut it. So they moved heavily into the pass. Now they say goodbye to Pollard, right? And that Cowboys offense now has Rico Dowdle and who's that little rookie running back? Some like Mighty Mouse running back, in their backfield right now. So if they don't draft a running back, that running game doesn't look scary coming into this year either. So they'll probably have to rely on the pass as well. A con for CeeDee, what can you really say? Like, CeeDee is great. He's young. He's, like I said, coming into the prime of his career. Like, he's definitely a franchise tag option for you. If you didn't have another gentleman on your team by the name of Tyreek Hill, I would say for sure tag CeeDee, and you still might tag CeeDee. Like, we'll talk about it in a minute. But he's currently not showing up for team activities because he wants a new deal. The Cowboys are going to pay him. He's going to get his money. I'm not too worried about that, but that would be the only concern at the moment. CeeDee is safe. Next one we're going to talk about, QB3, Dak Prescott. He had almost 600 pass attempts, 36 touchdowns, and single-digit picks. So kind of eat it, Dak haters, right? Everybody's been getting on Dak for his picks or his decision-making. Single-digit picks last year with 36 touchdowns. Like I say, he was tossing the ball all over the place, mainly to our man CeeDee Lamb over here. He gets rushing work. He had 55 rushing attempts, which is huge for a quarterback, right? Any type of elite quarterback or a quarterback that's going to finish in that top 3 needs to get rushing work, at least a little bit. If it's not around the goal line, he needs to be able to scramble or design rushes and be mobile. And not just mobile by like evading the pass rush here, but mobile in like, scrambling for a first down when needed, or, any of those design runs, especially around the goal line. He did benefit from an easy schedule second half of the season. Once we got going, the teams that he was playing had weak secondaries and weak passing defenses, so he definitely benefited from that. Now, if you're going to tag CD, I'm assuming you're going to want to try to keep that CD and Dak stack that worked out so nicely for you. So I'm assuming you would try to keep Dak and throw him into the keeper pool here. Cons. The Cowboys had 100 less rushing attempts last year. Like I said, they moved away from a more balanced attack and were very pass heavy. So a way that you could see Dak coming down is that offense becomes more balanced again. They find a running back that they trust. Like I said, the rushing game was super disappointing. So that would be the only kind of like, not hesitation, but I could see where he might not finish as the QB3 next year is if they become more balanced. Now, you have some running backs here that I want to talk about as well before we get into some of your other elite wide receiver options. Because, like I said, I'm kind of making this assumption that you're going to tag CeeDee Lamb, but I could be wrong. So, some running back options that you have. You have one elite option, right, and a solid option last year that finds himself in a even better situation this year. So, let's talk about DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift last year with Philadelphia finished as an RB2. If you watched any of my other videos, we talked about how Jalen Hurts kind of vultured all of those rushing touchdowns. He finished with 15. The rest of the running back room in Philly had 7. So he definitely, the lack of rushing touchdowns hurt DeAndre Swift. I mean, he's a great back. He still finishes an RB2. He was picked up swiftly, no pun intended, by the Bears in the offseason. They paid him. They gave him 3 years, $24 million. Like I say, it comes to a better situation. Now, hypothetically and on paper, that Bears offense should be much improved. They were disappointing last year. They had a couple running backs in the room with Roschon and Herbert and Foreman. They all kind of shared work. It's kind of like a three-headed monster, almost out of necessity because those running backs would get hurt on and off. I think they bring Swift in to be the guy. I think the offense has improved with Caleb Williams. They bring in not only Swift, they brought in another weapon that we're going to talk about in a little bit here, Keenan Allen, who you have on your team. So that offense, like I said, should be much, much better. So that should bring up his opportunities to score. The Bears can move the ball. He doesn't have Jalen Hurts there vulturing all of his touchdowns. So I think Swift is a borderline RB1. I think it is RB1 ceiling. I would put him around RB15-ish, like kind of like a RB1.5 at the moment. But some cons, right? So how it could go wrong. Caleb Williams sucks. Allen gets hurt again because Keenan Allen's got hurt last year. And the Bears offense disappoints again, which isn't so far-fetched because the Bears offense has been disappointing all throughout time and throughout history. So that Bears offense has never been like high-powered or potent. So it's tough to see, or it'd be kind of weird to see a Bears offense like putting up a high number of points, especially with a rookie quarterback. But that's how it possibly could go wrong for Swift. The next running back I want to talk about for you is Travis Etienne. Etienne finished, like I said, as the RB3. He had over 1,000 yards and 11 tutties. He had 58 receptions, so you love to see that passing game work. So, again, anytime you want that elite running backs, they need to have work in the passing game. They need to get the receptions, especially in a half PPR league. He was up, so he had 58. He was up from 35 the year before, which you love to see. Goes back to the Jags, right? Stays with the Jags. He stays with Trevor Lawrence, his college quarterback. So they definitely have chemistry there. Ridley, actually, who was on the Jags, gets shipped off to Tennessee. So Etienne might see even more work in the passing game. So sometimes, wide receivers leave, and all those vacated targets don't necessarily go to another wide receiver. Sometimes they go to like a running back, especially if you have a very capable pass catching running back. So ETN might see even more work in the passing game. What was disappointing with Ridley, and kind of again, even though he finishes the RB3, was his yards per carry. Like his work in the passing game really saved him. His yards per carry was like 3.7, which is not great. So you want to see that come up. So, but even if he's not as even if he stays inefficient in the rushing game, like that passing work game is so safe. So cons, a con for ETN here is I feel like RB3 is his absolute max ceiling. Like I feel like we might have seen his best fantasy finish ever for his career. I know he's just starting out, but that might be the top of the top. The touchdowns might go down, and he might remain inefficient in the rushing game, so that might hurt his fantasy finish going into 2024. But like ETN right now is an elite option at the running back position, especially with all the work that he gets in the passing game. All right, now if you don't tag CeeDee Lamb and you decide to throw CeeDee Lamb possibly in the keeper pool, I'm assuming you would throw him in the keeper pool. You would also be able to throw, or even you could tag Tyreek Hill too. Tyreek Hill finished as the wide receiver 2, just behind CeeDee. You were lucky enough to have them both on your team. Congratulations. Rode that all the way to the championship. Like I said, dominated the league. Tyreek Hill he's a freak of nature. He had 119 catches, 1,800 yards, and 13 touchdowns last year. The McDaniels scheme for Hill is perfect. He loves his speed. And he knows how to get him open. He knows what a weapon Tyreek Hill's, and he knows how to kind of scheme him open and get him the ball, in open space, and nobody can catch that man. So I just want to read you his fantasy finishes over the last 7 years. The last 7 full years, right? So he's finished 2 this past year. The year before that, he finished 2. He dipped all the way down to 6, 2, 1, and 4. Tyreek is like the elite of the elite, right? You look at Tyreek, and he's in the question to be the 101 in redraft leagues. Not so much in dynasty startups anymore. We'll talk about that in a second. But nobody would probably nobody would be like, "What are you doing?" if you took Tyreek 101, right? So he's awesome. So any cons that I might say about Tyreek, again, I'm not projecting this, but this is possibly how it could go wrong. Tyreek is age 30, and I know I'm not an ageist, but it's just the fact of the matter is that wide receivers at age 30 tend to start falling off or hit a cliff and completely fall off. History tells us that, the fall off is coming. When is it going to come? I don't know. Am I projecting it for this year? Probably not. Tyreek probably has 1, maybe 2 like great years left. But it could happen. So the only way I see it going wrong is that he can just completely just hits that age cliff, slows down, but like he's so fast. Like I was talking with another member of the league. It's like if Tyreek Hill even like slows down, he goes to like normal speed. Like he goes from like freak of nature speed to like normal fast. And like I said, that McDaniels scheme and system is just too good. So Tyreek Hill is great. I don't know what you're gonna do. Like I said, being a Cowboys fan that you are, I think you're gonna tag CeeDee, but Hill is a great option as well. The other 2 interesting wide receivers that I want to talk about that are still on your roster right now. One you traded for halfway through the year, I believe. So you have these 2 wide receivers. They're both in new homes. You have Keenan Allen and Calvin Ridley, which we mentioned earlier in the video. Keenan Allen's 31. Calvin Ridley was 29. But Calvin Ridley had that stretch where he didn't play, so he's like a young 29. Allen goes to the Bears with a rookie QB. Again, we're hoping, like I know Bears fans are getting hot and bothered by Kalen Williams, seeing interviews and all this kind of stuff, but you're hoping for that like CJ Stroud type season. But that's not the norm for rookie QBs. So Allen comes from the Chargers, which the Chargers last year with Kellen Moore were throwing the ball all over the place. Mike Williams got hurt again, so Keenan Allen was like the guy. But Keenan Allen's coming off like one of his best seasons ever. He also got hurt though. Ridley joins Lawrence in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville coaches are trying to get us hyped on Calvin Ridley going into next year, throwing things around like he's going to be used like Jamar Chase in the offense. Like anytime you start bringing up the name Jamar Chase, people's ears perk up and they get interested and they get excited. Now for Allen, going back to Allen, he's sure to see less targets. Like I said, he really wasn't competing with anybody last year for targets. I mean, who was there? Quentin Johnston. Like he comes in with DJ Moore. You have DeAndre Swift who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's not going to see as many targets as he did in Los Angeles. He is a PPR machine. He just catches like everything. He's just a great wide receiver. I don't think you're going to keep either of them because, like I said, if you're going to tag one of the wide receivers, whether it be CD or Hill, you can't throw them in the keeper pool. But they are, like if you did go with tagging a running back or if you tag Dak, you could throw some receivers in there, and I would assume it would be CD, Hill automatically, and then you would pick your favorite between Keenan and Calvin. Now, I feel like Adam Scheffler here. I did hear some rumors that there might be some trades in the work, might be scheming a little bit. I'm interested in seeing how it plays out. Can he repeat as champion, or can you repeat as champion, Air Frank? You got the squad to do it. I mean, you're gonna have a solid base. No matter what, you're gonna have a solid start to your roster here, and then you'll do your work in your draft or work in trades and all that kind of stuff. So again, shout out to our champion Air Frank. Our final breakdown. Remember, keep watching, keep winning. Good luck, nerds.